Hello everybody! Today we are going to be discussing thermal injury. So what is a thermal injury? This is when people are exposed to flames, chemicals, electricity, sunburn, and out in the heat or cold for an extended amount of time. Any burn that results from these types of substances are thermal injuries. The question is, are you between the ages of 20 to 30? People in this age group receive the highest amount of thermal injuries. So be on your guard for these injuries if you're between this age of 20 and 30. The damage to tissue from thermal injuries is caused by the amount of time a person was exposed to the heat or cold. And the extreme results from thermal injuries can put a person in a hospital, they can experience chronic pain, receive amputations, and in some cases, there's even death that occurs with these thermal injuries. Now we're going to discuss the 3 degrees of burns. We're going to first talk about a 1st degree burn. This is a burn that affects the skin and usually causes pain, and there's visible redness. So as you can see on this person's arm, up here would be the 1st degree burn, just kind of signs of redness. The 2nd degree burn affects the skin and below the skin, or you can also call it the epidermis and dermis. 2nd degree burns are shown by blisters, infection, body fluid loss, and also pain. So we're getting to the 2nd degree burn right here. 3rd degree burns are the ones that we want to avoid, that if all possible. Well, actually, we want to avoid all of these thermal injuries, but this is the definite worst of them all. And it affects the epidermis, the dermis, and all areas of the skin, resulting in charred and often painless skin. So it's so burned that you can't even feel it at this point. And here we've got an image of that 3rd degree burn, what it would be like. Next, we're going to talk about the different types of burns that we can receive thermal injuries from. So the first, we're going to talk about flames. This comes from fire. The National Burn Repository of America, they reported that 43% of burns from the report that they gave came from flame. Next, we're going to talk about something called a chemical burn. This kind of burn comes from various sources. These type of chemicals can be acidic or gasoline. They can come from cleaners and paint thinners. The pain and redness may occur a while after exposure. So it's kind of like a sunburn. You're out in the sun for a while and you don't notice that you've received a sunburn until later. And this is kind of the same with chemicals. The next kind of burn we're going to talk about is that from electricity or electrical. And electrical burns are 3rd degree burns. Though the burns on the epidermis may appear minimal, electrical burns travel through the blood system, which can clot the blood and cause damage. That's why this is considered 3rd degree, because it's pretty severe. This type of burn may sometimes result in amputation. So next we will talk about, we mentioned it a little bit before, sunburn though. A sunburn is caused by, well, the sun, but also UV light in extreme measure. That can also come from sun lamps and tanning beds. Exposure to the sun can also come on hazy days. And even though you may not think that you're getting as much sun when it's kind of cloudy outside, you can still receive a sunburn from these UV rays. So make sure you wear your sunscreen every day. Next, we are going to talk about the general process for treating burns. All kinds of burns. First, third, and second degree burns. First of all, no matter what the burn is, if there's a flame, you want to stop the burning by putting out the fire, stop, drop, and roll method, remove smoldering or burning material from the person. That includes jewelry, clothing, anything that may be on fire or extremely hot. So we're going to talk about the different kind of procedures that happen that you can take for each type of burn, first, second, and third. For a first degree burn, you want to hold the skin under cool running water or compress it and cover with sterile bandages. And it's recommended not to use ointment because this can cause infection. For a second degree burn, you want to immerse it in water for about 10 to 15 minutes, or you can also compress it as well. Do not break the blisters or use ice. Using ice can lower body temperatures, and this can increase the damage of the burn. Cover with loose, sterile bandages, and also visit a doctor. For a third degree burn, for the very severe burns, call 911. That's what you want to do first of all. Cover with loose, sterile bandages, and do not soak the burn in water or apply ointment, which can also increase the infection. Next, we will talk about something called the Rule of Nines. Rule of Nines. And the Rule of Nines is a procedure used by healthcare professionals to determine the severity of burns. The body is divided up into multiples of 9%, and when the burns are added up together, resulting in 18% or more of the body, for young or elderly people, the condition is considered severe. The way that we can go about helping these people is through rehabilitation, which is a method that can be used in some cases of thermal injury burns. On thermal injury burns, scar tissue is often built up after the injury, and eschar, or a covering over the skin, will form. Also, another thing that can be used to relieve the pressure are splints and braces. And we'll also include the rehabilitation, which we talked about earlier. So, as mentioned, splints and braces can be used to apply pressure on the pain of the thermal injury so that it's not as significant. Now, you may wonder where therapeutic recreation fits into all of this. Recreational therapists, they design activities to help the victims of thermal injury to increase their range of motion, because a person that has a thermal injury can be limited in their range of motion. These activities will help them to increase with that. And also, another important thing that a recreational therapist does is they encourage them to get involved in physical activities and also help them to be reintegrated into the community. And they also give them coping techniques. For severe burns for people, this can often be quite a transition. It's something they're not used to. They may look a little bit different. And recreational therapists can give that motivation through these activities to help them better integrate back into the community. Another thing that a recreational therapist can do is stay closely associated with the participant's family and friends. This can give the participant more support and motivation during this hard time. So this little video kind of gives you an idea of what a thermal injury is, as well as what we as recreational therapists can do to help these people cope with these injuries. Last but not least, we will talk about some of the sources. We'll just actually look at them. But thank you so much for watching, and feel free to stay tuned. Next week we may just have another episode. Have a wonderful day.